Welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast, where we discuss all things ranging from love, relationships, authenticity, fulfillment, to lessons from plant medicine journeys, inner healing, and living your truth. I'm not your teacher, I'm only your fellow student. Occasionally, you also get to hear some of my own healing process and journey back to love. The point of the program? That you take away at least one actionable piece of knowledge that supports you in expanding whatever aspect of your life your heart most desires. My name is Cesar Rodriguez. I will be your host, and I am honored to have you here. Happy listening. Welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast. Here I am again. I'm your host, Cesar, and I'm here with Kyle Mitri. I'm so excited to bring him here with you and share whatever is going to come through in this podcast. One of our intentions is to share about what opens up in community, where you have community support you. And Kyle is just a real soul brother of mine. We met by chance completely at a zoo by Nasara at an event and just hit it off. It was like instant brotherhood. I posted about this on Instagram a couple of times, I think, at this point, where I had no idea where I was. I went to this event because I got a ticket online. It sounded like fun. I didn't know anybody in Costa Rica. I drive an hour and a half down. I walk up to the first group of strangers I see that look kind of cool, and Kyle was like, "Welcome to the family."
Dude, that was beautiful. I always get reminded of that moment, and kind of more or less how open you were to be received. And I think that was why it was just like, "Hey, brother, welcome to the family." That
was a special moment indeed. And I met you and Darren and Tish all on the same day, right? Tish and Darren, who've both been on the podcast. Darren episode 8, Tish episode 10. So now here you are. So I'm going to let Kyle introduce himself. I can't do justice to an introduction on my own. So Kyle, welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So please tell people a bit about who you are.
Well, on my journey the last 10 years that I've been in Costa Rica, I've dipped into a lot of different modalities of healing and connection. And right now I'm in a space of conscious community building. So in terms of real estate, I'm helping people find and create points of where they can sink into communities here and help to build them consciously and sustainably. As well as I'm a part men's group facilitator. I run men's coaching, men's retreats as well. And I'm also into relationship building, relationship coaching. And this is part of kind of the greater whole to bring conscious awareness, community communication to the masses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. That's just a little bit about Kyle Mitri. You'll get to know much more by the end of this episode.
Yes.
One of the things I've been wanting to ask you that I waited until now to ask you, really, when I asked you when I met you, you were like, "I do conscious real estate." I had no idea what that meant. Do you still do conscious real estate? And can you tell us what the heck conscious real estate is?
So I'll give you a basic background. I mean, I've entered real estate in the last 6 to 8 months. And I've always loved real estate.
Yeah.
Because it's tangible.
Yeah.
But how I saw it going and how I saw it being done is very just unconscious of, buy something for one, sell it for two. So conscious real estate to me was the sense of, what impact am I doing and giving back by helping people find real estate, helping people find communities? How are we integrating and educating people in terms of learning how to navigate into a community, how to give back? What are you doing to give back to your community when you purchase a piece of property? Are you integrating? Are you giving some of your skill sets? Are you donating towards causes within the community? There's this understanding that for me, it's a way of how are we making our impact and how are we showing up within our immediate community. And to me, it's our immediate community, not far and wide. To me, your energy needs to be dispersed where you're at. I think that's most important.
Okay. And can you give us like an example of like an inside look of what that actually looks like in a practical sense?
For sure. So I'm having a project now where we are, some investors have bought a big piece of land. And now what we're going to go through is, subdividing, turning it into more of like a sustainable eco-based system where we will have platforms that people can buy into. And then we'll have a filtering process of basically like, hey, listen, we're going to work within the land. We're going to be build sustainable materials. We're going to be, working with upcycling kind of conscious awareness. We're going to be learning to give, feedback, support, and aid to those around us, especially the community that surrounds us, the local community. So there's all these initiatives that as you come in, we're going to educate you and basically filter in if this is right for you or not. Because we want you to come in going, hey, you're not just buying a piece of land, building a big wall or 5-story building. It's, no, you're building on 10 to 15% of your land. You're using 20 or 30% of your land to reforest. And then from there, we're going to have community-based aspects where it's, okay, well, how are you showing up in your community? How are you giving back some of your expertise? Are you donating to any causes that are uplifting the community? And how are you integrating the local community in your community? Instead of just hiring people and going, oh, well, you're going to clean my house, you're going to cook my food. That's it. How are we integrating and educating and actually uplifting our surrounding environment? So that to me is like conscious real estate. Is how we're uplifting everyone and supporting them together, and not just, again, creating this hierarchy of needs of, well, I'm here with money, you're here with, giving me what I need, and then you're going to leave my house and I'm never going to talk to you again. That's zero integration.
Right. Wow.
Which is to me a big problem.
Zero integration.
So now with this new concept of building community, we want to create this amazing dynamic of workflow, but we also want to understand that we're within another culture. It's a Spanish culture. It's a Costa Rican culture, and it's very, beautiful and dynamic, but we've also got to uplift the surrounding area and not just throw money at it and hope it feels good.
Gotcha.
Because again, it pushes the local community further away. Right. So this is the concepts that we're trying to bring, especially within Nosara, that I'm trying to bring within my own community.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So you find the land yourself, and then you get investors.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So with this potential project I have now, I was approached by 3 people, 3 investors that bought a big piece of land, and they're basically in the beginning phases now of just creating, planners, the separations of the lands, how that's going to look like, just the basic logistics. And then we're going to create the filtering process of, educating people as they come in, because we want to be super specific with like, hey, dude, this isn't going to be your 5th house.
Right.
And you're just going to throw money at it. And Like, this is generally going to be your primary residence. You don't have to be here for like a whole year, but it needs to be more or less your primary residence. So you actually show up in the community. This is the goal.
Gotcha.
So you're not just, throwing people there and just creating this party community. It's the last thing we want.
I see. How did you get into conscious real estate? How did you even learn about this whole concept?
I love community. It's always been part of my gig, my vibe, my soul. I've always loved real estate, and prior to that, I was, running juice bars, and I was doing retreats with women primarily through, trauma healing, and I was doing a whole bunch of other things prior to this. But I always loved real estate to watch things start buying a piece of land and getting built up, and living in the jungle where I live, where I'm surrounded by so much nature and all these incredible animals, from dusk to dawn, but just screeching in the morning, which is so beautiful to wake up to. This idea of, well, how am I building now within the land? So I see these houses going up, and then I see walls getting put up, and I see trees getting cut down. When you put up walls, you're stopping the migration of the animals that are on the land.
Right.
When you're cutting trees, you're stopping the migration of the monkeys crossing. So you're taking away the way they normally, walk and run and communicate, essentially. You're stopping and pushing in the outskirts. So the idea is we want to work towards not putting up walls. Owning your space, having your divided space, but essentially not pushing out the nature that was already there prior. And not kind of having this toxic ego coming in and being like, I want my place secure, 10-foot wall, no one come in, only my people. That's not community. To me, it's not integrated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can still have a gorgeous, amazing, beautiful house,
Yeah.
that's pretty big
Yeah.
without having to cut down and to put up walls and to disconnect yourself from the community that you're in.
Gotcha. Okay. It's amazing.
And another thing that will come up is people will be like, oh, but what about security and what about this? And of course, there's going to be things with that of, there is always a bit of, petty theft and so on and so forth. And then you can actually hire, locals to look after your space, and give someone a job, give someone money and create that beautiful connection with that person as well, while creating a sense of security for the land or your family who's coming in and stuff like this.
Right.
That will be a question that will always come up is, what about security? What about this? And
right. Yeah,
it's always an intermediary option.
That's perfect. There are a lot of people that would love some work here in this country that could really use it.
Yeah.
So and we come from other Western countries like the United States or South Africa yourself, and people that come with certain means. We have the means to be able to support the other
easily
local community members that way, for sure. That's part of what you do. Is that like your main gig now? Because you also do relationship coaching, right? So is it about 50-50 or how is...
so again, I'm also starting my men's coaching practice.
Okay.
So, on top of that, relationship coaching is within that. And then it's actually just expanding as well.
So you do relationship coaching for men instead of your men's group training?
Yeah. And I also take on women as well, actually.
Okay.
But my main focus and priority right now would be my kind of conscious real estate and my men's coaching practice, which I'm in the process of building my 3-month program.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you used to work in trauma healing. Oh, you said it was particularly for women? For
women. So I have the beautiful way that started was with one of my sisters, Tanya.
Uh-huh.
And, she wanted to bring a set of her women down from Canada and run a beautiful retreat, keep it nice and light, do a couple workshops of just some, circle healing, just very simple stuff.
Yeah.
And she was like, we got together and we became super tight, and she was like, look, I really love your energy. I know you've done kind of retreats prior to this. Would you be interested in running a retreat with me? And it'll just be all women. And I'm like, well, I'm super comfortable with women. I've always kind of coached women around that, around, nutrition, eating, life coaching in a way. And she said, hey, look, we're going to do a couple of, really easy workshops, keep it simple and just see where that goes. And I was like, I would love that. Let's take it and let's see what run with it. And then, so she would bring her essential crew that she had based on what she did back in Canada. Because also she had a modality of healing and she was also in Pilates and so on.
Oh, nice.
So she would bring down these incredible, beautiful souls that would just drop in and we'd put them in about a week retreat. And we would make it as rustic as possible, take them from their, beautiful luxury and put them like 3 women in a room on a single bed, basically to break away from luxury so they could do a bit of the work.
Wow.
But what ended up happening was we created such shifts and created such safe space where a lot of these women could relate to us and open up very quickly about heavy trauma that was happening.
Yeah.
From previous things that happened in their life, and basically having a space to talk about it, let it go and process it. And then have other women to relate to. And also have this essentially kind of divine masculine, which is basically a container of a man who can hold space and hold that without judgment and just absolute love and compassion, which is very new for women, being able to talk about such intimate details in front of a younger man who can hold that space.
Yeah.
And it was breakthrough stuff.
Yes.
It was just, we created space for that and it just grew. These women would have these awakenings and drop in so quickly. And we were like, holy shit, we're creating some real huge shifts here. So we realized very quick, okay, we got to have like 2 or 3 days for integration.
Right.
Because we were having such huge shifts with these women. So then it was like, okay, whoa, let's slow down a little bit. Work on how to, show and hold space for that integration, create support systems and flow for them that they could tap into when they went back. So it wasn't like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I'm divorcing my husband and I'm out.
Yeah.
We were like, just slow down, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And take space for that. And, I'm also very, just speaking pro-love, but also pro-divorce if it needs to happen. That's a shift into independence and awareness and sovereignty again,
Right.
So we had this incredible move towards, our woman going through some heavy movements into healing and being able to cater and support to that. So, and it's been absolutely incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where you had done your trauma healing for women. All right, so here's what I want to know. How did you become Kyle Mitri? Where did this guy come from? Where did you get trained? I mean, it's clear. I have seen you hold space for people, for women and men, and it's just this beautiful space that you bring where it's absolute safety, right? And people can just be with you, and you're just a container to allow whatever needs to flow. And it's a beautiful thing, right? That's not, people don't come out of the womb like that. I don't think. So,
yeah.
So where did Kyle Mitri come from? I want to hear it.
Dude, that's a great question. I've never been asked it in that way before. But honestly, it came from my trauma. As a kid, I was, let's just say a normal kid growing up until like 9. Sports, I was fine at school. Everything was like, cool and flowy and fine.
Yeah.
And then when I was 10, I don't know what happened. Something happened, which I can't, meditate back to. I'm not really sure what that was, but I had like a 180 where I started just, becoming worse at school, depressed, hating life, super insecure, just fucking angry. And, there's been many ways of, I've had friends and mentors say like maybe it was a soul contract switch, maybe it was, more on the spiritual side, but something happened maybe that was traumatic that I can't reconnect with. And I've tried, but I've kind of just said, okay, well, I'm not meant to remember it, or I'm not meant to know about it, but I'm going to embrace what happens. And then, man, I went for, since I was 10, just super depressed and fucking angry and dude, just catatonically not fitting into the shape that was my environment. That was the biggest thing. I was this, multi, shaped object that was not able to fit into a square peg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people living it had that, which is why they came here. And so I went through that from 10 to like 25, huge depression. When I was a kid, I was on Prozac, Epilim, but I was on like 20 tablets a day, and I was like numbed, out.
20 tablets a day.
Easy,
So it was like some serious depression, like clinically diagnosed.
Yeah, this is the thing, because you don't know, and your parents don't know, and they trust, the medical field.
From 10 to 25.
Easy, yeah.
And today
I'm 35.
You're 35. So that's a long time, 15 years.
Yeah.
What happened in those 15 years, and then like, what was the shift? What was the catalyst?
Totally, man. So I'll shift. So basically 15 years of just, wanting to commit suicide all the time, having guns in my mouth consistently, just hurting myself all the time, just to try to feel something, because I'm not fitting into where I'm at. And no one knows or can tell me what the fuck is going on. It was just not there. My parents, who I fucking love so much, were just like, we don't know how to fix this boy who's in such pain. And they're like, well, doctors, can you help? And the doctors would be like, as I'm sure most have dealt with, it's like, well, I can't relate. I read this in a book. Here's a pill. He's not getting fixed. Well, let's give him another pill. And eventually my mom was like, fuck that shit. These doctors don't know what they're doing. I'm going to just cold turkey his ass. And it was super heavy, but it was amazing. Like, thanks to my mom, who really just pulled me out of that, because she could see that this kid is not even there anymore.
Right.
And then it was the kind of healing cycle through that, but I was just still not in a good space. Even though I wasn't on medication, I started eating super clean, started exercising, getting back to myself in a way. I was just still not fitting into that.
Right.
So fast forward, when I was 25, I had a friend who came to me and was like, hey, dude, listen, I feel like you need to go find yourself, because this isn't working. What's happening? And I was like, dude, I know. I need to figure out who I am, and it needs to be outside of this environment. And he said, Costa Rica, bro, Pura Vida. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what that means, but it sounds right. And so literally I was like, what does it mean? Is it Chinese? Is it Japanese? He's like, no, it's Spanish. And it's a country, and it's Costa Rica. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then literally I was like, fuck it, I'm out. 2 weeks later, I left. I did zero research. I booked him to teach English as a second language. I booked him to stay with a local family, which I didn't really know anything.
Right.
I was just like, I'm out, and I'm going to figure it out how that sits.
Nice.
So fast forward a few months, I arrive, I'm learning the local culture, I'm learning the local dialect, and I'm kind of just figuring out how the fuck to survive. No money, rustic living, because I came from kind of more luxury to like now I'm like cows and shit outside of my house, got no money, I'm just maybe making rent, and I'm like, fuck, this is hard, but it pushed me to break through, to that part of myself that needed to be seen. And that was called my spiritual awakening.
Gotcha.
And I was so happy to have this awakening of like, oh my God, this is me. This is how I feel. This is me living authentically, living in my community that sees me. But also having mentors who are like, hey, bro, this is what you're going through. These are the books you need to read. This is how you need to meditate. This is what meditation is.
Okay.
And
That's what I really want to get into the particles of, because I think if we're able to capture the source of that before and after, I think that could really provide something for a lot of people, right? So, you call it your spiritual awakening, right? And I can. It's obviously the contrast is clear. The picture you drew about what it was like those 15 years and who you are now. I mean, couldn't be more night and day, right? So let's talk about that a little bit more. So Pura Vida was the number one thing in the prescription, right? It came down here, and you said you had mentors?
Yeah.
Before coming or after? Once you arrived? Once you arrived, you found them somewhere?
They came to me, but like anything, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
The master shows up.
Shit, like I was like, namaste, I'm ready. And so my brother.
Where were you in Costa Rica?
I was in Samara. So I arrived in Samara.
Okay, great.
And again, being in this new concept, it was like, dude, Spanish, didn't speak a lick of Spanish. I didn't even know they spoke only Spanish here.
Right.
I didn't really think about that when I arrived, which is hilarious. Because I'm like, the guy picked me up from the airport and he's
¿Cómo está su español ahora?
Ahora está súper bien, pura vida. Como un acento tico.
Nice.
Gracias.
Very good. Proper Spanish.
That's it.
Go ahead.
Dude, and it was, beautiful learning the language and culture. That's to me the thing, you have to at least try to learn the language of the culture that you're in, because that's also integration. That helps integrate, but it also shows locals that you care. And then they open up. So fast forward a few months, I met this brother who actually arrived on the same day as me, but unknowingly. His name was Chris Hawk.
I know him. So, I met him the same day I met you.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So
awesome dude. Shout out to Chris Hawk.
Boy. So, we became friends. At first I was like, who's this good-looking dude who's in my town?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I feel a little like this, and then I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I got to get to know this guy. So through a mutual friend, Kurt, he's like, hey, this is, Brother Hawk. And then him and I became super close because he's been through his spiritual journey pretty in depth. And he was able to guide me and facilitate my growth of just like, dude, I'm fucking, like buzzing, dude. Everything's energy and frequency, and I know who I am now, and I can show it so fully and authentically. And he's like, listen, my little Padawan, here's a couple books, get a journal, I want you to write, I want you to read, I want you to do this is what breathwork looks like, this is when I want you to breathe, when you wake up, I want you to scan your body, drink water immediately, don't go straight to coffee, He's still trying to get me off coffee. But it's not that. So, I was so grateful to have that brother who had me, who could hold me.
Yeah.
And, who could drop me into my feminine to heal. And it was so beautiful because it was like, I got you. and I'm going to give you things to do to create that structure and that container around where you're going to be going.
You said he was able to support you in jumping into your feminine?
Yeah, so he was, he created this beautiful natural container where it's soft and gentle, where I could just be like, feminine, receiving, vulnerability, emotion. This is where, to me, my healing is done. And then through that awareness, can I move forward in a more masculine-based approach, which is container, purpose, direction, right? So I had to do all of that healing. So for me, my past 10 years, which has been called for me, has actually just been me healing. So going to the original question of how I became me is, man, like instead of building business, I've done, a bunch of small businesses and it's been great, but I've spent the majority of that energy, time, just healing parts of myself, past, present, and future. Just focused on things that are coming up that I need to work through, focused on pain that comes up that I didn't know I had, that I'm releasing through my own practice and my own tools. So it's just been a consistent learning curve of healing and then integrating and implementing into, I learned this has just come up. How am I going to implement this now with steps so I can consistently keep this as a routine in my life?
Isn't it interesting that as we heal, we all of a sudden, the things that we're up to, our vocation, our work, it starts to, our perception really begins to shift as to like wanting to do things that are more in alignment with what we're starting to see in ourselves instead of through healing. Yeah.
And this is the work. So the work in my, experience goes, you have the feminine, the womb. This is what we just talked about. The receiving, the healing, and so on. And then you have the masculine, which is the doing. So to me, you've got to get into that state of healing, which is why a lot of men right now are in this state of, oh my God, I'm vulnerable, I'm tender, I don't really have directional purpose, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But that needs to happen in order to sink into this. Yeah, I don't know what's going on because I need to do some healing. I need to break down that old masculine structure that is not serving me or society. So once that healing gets done and you're like, oh my God, like I know who I am. I know, the patterns that came up because of my father and his father through this hierarchy, this patriarchal system that we grew up with, which is like dominating women and treating everyone like shit. And I got to win, you got to lose.
And you're not allowed to cry. I'm like,
totally.
Don't be a little girl.
Face
all right.
And fucking keep going.
Yeah.
And provide. And you're like, but I'm in pain. And I'm vulnerable and tender as fuck, and I just want to cry.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to do that.
Now we're in the system where I'm having conversations with brothers going, man, isn't it amazing to cry? Sitting with sisters and going, hey, I'm holding space for you guys and feeling like you can sink into, talking about your periods and your moon cycles and being able as a conscious man to sit here and hold space for you and have these conversations and not hide away from them.
Yeah. And
through all of this work, now I can actually go, now I can get into my masculine and essentially step into my
correct.
Right? My purpose, my life's purpose going, I'm not now just heading in my masculine, working 20 hours a day because I think I need to provide, that is what success to me. It's now, I know what my dharma is because I've done the healing and the work. Now that I take this initiative forward in my masculine to the doing, am I aware of what I'm doing? Now I'm conscious of what I'm doing. Yeah. So when I'm doing something, what is my impact? Am I hurting nature? Yes. Am I hurting women by just going forward? Am I hurting people around me?
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is make someone in real estate or in relationship feel like they're in pain, like they're hurting. Yeah. So it takes work, it takes practice, it comes back and forth, but this is the kind of the healing modality that I try to work through and towards.
Yes. Yeah. Providing first that container of safety, that container of it's okay to feel your feelings. In fact, be encouraged to feel 100%. And stuff. Yeah.
And desire. It's not just the pain, it's also desire.
Yeah.
So this goes and bridges, if we move into a little bit of a relationship style.
Yeah.
Is, can your woman talk about a cycle in front of you? She should be able to talk about her period and her cycle in front of you. Because we have it, it's natural. We want to be supported. We don't want to hide it. I had a friend the other day who was like, she was on her cycle and she was kind of running around the corner because she started flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, she came back and realized, oh, wow, I forgot, like, I feel so safe with you guys. I can tell you that I need support right now.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that men can hold and go, hey, what do you need? I got you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need me to go buy something, or you need me to go get your diva cup, or whatever that looks like. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful and it's natural.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it works into desire as well.
Mm-hmm.
What conversations are you having with your partners? Are you telling them that you love certain aspects of wanting to bring in other people, or you want to be just more open, or you want to try new things and not feeling like, oh my God, if I tell my partner to tie me up, will he resent me?
Mm-hmm.
Or will she resent me? So what conversations are we having that are moving into authenticity?
Right.
To know that you're being held in that. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Jeez, we can do like 5 episodes.
I know.
Because I want to ask you, I know at some point you discovered the world of plant medicine as well. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it was post 25 years old.
Yes.
At what point did plant medicine enter your life, and what role did it play in your spiritual growth, your spiritual journey?
Yeah. So again, my brother Hawk, he was like, hey bro, listen, there's an ayahuasca ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about it. And, you know, back then, Sarah wasn't really around us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you tapped into certain communities like Pachamama.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a tie into Pachamama, and he was like, look, we're going to go do a white night. We're going to dress in white, and we're going to go do ayahuasca, Santo Daime tradition.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different style of tradition, the way they brew medicine, and the songs that come from that medicine. And they also have a different way of doing that. So, you know, we all dress in white, and there's still about like 50 to 100 people. And they would have a woman on one side and men on one side, not to shift and integrate with the energies. They want you to keep being your process.
Mm-hmm.
And not feel like it's integrating or you're thinking too much, you know, which is a very smart actually way of doing medicine.
Mm-hmm.
To just be in your process and not be thinking about, oh, woman's next to me, she's so gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I'm feeling so much. It's keeping it here.
Mm-hmm.
So we would dress up, and in our regalness, in our power, in our love, and basically sit into this medicine. You know, you would have, it's much lighter, so you would have a few, and then you would go into your trip essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And what that would breed is so much appreciation and love and contentment for nature, and just stepping into the earth and going, oh my God, I can't believe I've been conditioned away from and neglected you for so long. You know, and just have so much compassion for the ground that we walk on, for Pachamama, for the earth. And it bred just such the sense of, oh my God, I'm just in such gratitude of the life I live, of my community, of myself, of nature, of just everything around me. And I remember just being in such like awesome gratefulness.
Yes.
Consistently. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. I never want this to end. But then I've also got to learn to integrate this medicine and not go do ayahuasca every 2 weeks.
Correct.
Which is
also what
the next step of medicine. Which is, are you taking time between medicines to integrate what you're learning?
Absolutely.
And move into, because the whole idea and the premise and the kind of philosophy around medicine and ayahuasca is you need to be able to reach this state without taking the medicine, because the medicine is a tool for your growth and expansion.
That's right. To
pull back that curtain and that veil and go, oh wow, that's how that works.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then go, cool, now I'm going to go do a bit of work. But I can come back and pull it back based on my own work and not having to take ayahuasca again as just basically another pill concept.
Right. Because the medicine itself is not going to save you. It's not going to fix you. It's just going to give you guidance.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. And it can very easily become an attachment for people.
Right. And because of the experience that you have while you're there, you feel so good. You think like, okay, I need more of that.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. It's like anything. It's like MDMA.
Right.
When you hear people taking MDMA and they're feeling so warm and fuzzy and loving, you're like, oh my God, what about when this ends? I'm going to feel so depressed because I want to stay in this, this love bubble that I'm in. And again, MDMA can be a beautiful medicine to step into that, especially with partnership. Oh my God, I want to dive into my partner so beautifully. And use that as a tool and not go, okay, well, I'm only going to do that if we take MDMA every time.
Right.
which for those who don't know, it's just a pure form of ecstasy.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to have these little pockets of tools that you can pull in but not be attached to.
Yeah. And how soon after you arrived in Costa Rica did you participate in that ceremony?
I think it was like probably 5 or 6 months in.
5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, great. How many ceremonies have you participated in?
But I've done, this is the thing about living here as well.
Yeah.
I don't like doing tons of ceremonies.
Right.
And people are like, oh my God, you must have done like 100. No, I've done probably like 7 or 8 Aya ceremonies.
Yeah. Same.
Different style of Aya ceremonies. I've done some San Pedro, peyote, a few other ceremonies as well, mushroom ceremonies, breath work ceremonies, cacao ceremonies, and all of these beautiful ways of integrating into ceremony, which is community within an intention.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point.
So beautiful.
And so again, I make sure I do ayahuasca probably once a year, once every 8 months. And the idea behind that is I have time to integrate. Like I need space to integrate what I'm learning and what's coming in. Without that time, I feel like I'm becoming too attached to the medicine.
Right.
I need to give myself space and it needs to come in naturally.
Right. Yeah. For me right now, it's about once or twice a year that I participate. And the yearly one is kind of like a check-in, just to receive. I'm actually
check-in purge.
I'm actually going this Friday with Brother Rasmus down to Ho Chang, to the Garden of Eden down there. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm excited.
I received such beautiful guidance in December, which actually guided me down here.
Dude, that's beautiful.
So
is it 1 or 2 nights?
It's still just one night. And you mentioned something that I want to touch upon because it was a real quick point, and I just want to emphasize that theme in one of your first, I don't know if it was your first or one of your first medicine experiences, you got in touch with like the gratitude for the earth and its beauty. And isn't that really something to suddenly something happens where we wake up to like, wow, like we have this earth and we see that it's a living being and she provides everything we need. And our bodies that came from the earth, that are made of the same stuff that makes up everything on earth. They're both matter. We become like equally grateful for our bodies too. I don't know if you had an experience like that where you're like, oh my God, my body, like
totally.
And we become abundantly grateful, like feeling blessed. Like how fortunate are we to have this earth that gives fruits and when you eat in like in the integration circle after the ceremony, you're like a watermelon or something.
You're like, oh my God, I'm getting into my body again. Yeah. This feels amazing.
Yeah. I just point I want to make is that for me, like I remember like, whoa, like this is amazing. And it's something that we're so disconnected from in the Western lifestyle. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's like we get conditioned to just take it all for granted. Like, oh, wake up, walk the sidewalk. There's a beautiful tree. Just keep walking though, you do your thing, like walk on earth. And we're not blown away by how fortunate we are, how beautiful it is.
It's the speed.
Yeah.
The speed of the system that we live in, right? So we're going at like, 100 miles an hour. Yeah. And at 100 miles an hour, you can't really see or appreciate anything. You can't. Why I love Costa Rica is because it slows you down to like 5 miles an hour. Yeah. And you just stop. You also become much younger because you slow down. You don't speed up towards your death. You're slowing it down because your speed is slowing. So now I'm walking through life going, oh, what's up, dude? I got you. I see you.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this earth. Look at that animal that's moving. Slow down.
Yeah.
Respect. We're all a part of the same thing. Yeah. We're all a part of nature. When you recognize that and your speed slows, you can now, oh wow, that's beautiful. But if you're running at 100 miles an hour, there's no way you can stop and smell the roses. There's no way you can stop and see that bug on the wall.
Right.
Or help that animal in need. Yeah. Help someone in need. Well, you need something? No, dude, I'm fucking going. I can't help you.
Yeah.
I've got like 20 things to do. So we do this. We horse blinder ourselves.
Yeah. And coming from the West, it really is like a detox to develop that constant awareness. Because for me, at the very least, I remember when I first got here, and I rented a car, and I'm driving down, especially when I drove down to that event, an hour and a half or two, by Nassau at a Zoo Ocean Club. And I so enjoyed the ride there. And then a month later, Darren hits me up like, hey, I'm doing an event down there again, the Sound Journey. I'm like, I'm definitely going. And now, I don't know what it was. I left a little bit later than I wanted to, and I feel like I'm running late. And now I'm like speeding through the whole thing, not noticing anything. And I'm like 2/3 of the way there, like, fuck. Wait a second, Caesar, what happened? Like, I saw the contrast of my first experience driving down there and the second one. And I was like, look at how easily I got into go, go, go mode that I forgot to be aware.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Because you're recognizing that.
Yeah.
That's the trick.
Yeah.
It's not judgment. It's, oh shit, I went back into that old pattern pretty quickly.
Yeah.
As soon as you recognize it, you're taking away its energy. Immediately.
Yeah.
And that's the idea, is, yes, we condition, and our matrix system back home makes us go in this and work towards our death so quickly. And that's unfortunately the program and the conditioning that we have.
Yeah.
You know, and us lucky ones who get to break out of that by choice, basically are in a space of, okay, now I'm aware of that life that I used to live. And sometimes those patterns come up of, oh shit, like I'm working 48, 50, 60-hour weeks now, whereas before I was like in 10-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And it's a recognition of, okay, cool. When things get going or when shit hits the fan, I sometimes revert back to old patterns.
Yeah.
But then I'm aware, and then I come back.
Right.
So I veer off and then just come back on my alignment. And then I veer off, and it's okay. Because I don't mind those little veer offs.
It's like an ebb and flow. Right.
Gives me perspective.
Right.
Of just, okay, cool. I'm just back on. I'm not going to judge myself.
Right.
These are things that happen. I'm in this human body too.
Yeah.
That means giving yourself space to fuck up and make mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, allowance is huge. Guilt is a killer.
Correct. That's something that took me a while, and then still even learning, but much more so years ago. I remember like when you start seeing, well, at least when I would start seeing these things, I'm like, okay, this is how I've been living my life. This is what I need to shift. Then every time I would catch it, I'd have like this bit of resentment, like, oh my God, I'm still doing that thing. Like, oh, there I go doing that again. So I think it's perhaps like a second important thing to learn to do. The first being become aware and learn to catch yourself when you're just living automatically from some programming or conditioning from the past. Second step, I guess, is like develop the compassion and space for yourself, which I think, bringing the conversation full circle, is what perhaps contributed to you becoming so great at holding space for people, because you had to learn to have compassion for yourself and give space for yourself when you started saying these things about yourself. And when you're able to give yourself that space, I think it's that much easier to provide it for others. I think we're hardest on ourselves than anybody else.
Your personal judger is yourself, 100%. So when you're having that feeling of, oh my God, they're looking at me like this, or they think this, or they do that, it's actually not. It's just your projection of that insecurity.
Right.
And generally, whenever you approach the conversation with anyone, they'll be like, no, dude, what are you talking about? Like, that conversation was fine, that experience was perfect, without taking it on yourself and having that projection of guilt. So for me, as you just beautifully pointed out, having compassion and love to myself through my healing, through going back in my own ways to my previous child that went through all of that pain. This is my healing path with my trauma, is going back to that child and basically going, I love you so much. You did the best that you could with what you had. And therefore changing and morphing the energy and the emotion that came from that. So instead of it being pain, it's love and compassion.
Right.
So going back to that child, and that's where the child healing comes in on love, compassion, kindness. You're changing that whole lineage of energy that's moving to this person now. And that's allowed me to give space for that and then create space for others with non-judgment.
Good stuff. So that's how Kyle Mitri became Kyle Mitri. So good, man. We can go on and on about this, the whole inner healing journey and the inner child. I actually met my inner child. I mean, we're getting used to the language now, right? Like in December of 2020. I always related to inner child like some concept, like, oh, that's how you use a distinction, or that's how you refer to something about yourself. But in my ayahuasca ceremony at the end of the year of 2020, after having this consultation with the Akashic record reader, I think I told you, my first ever Akashic record reading, which coincidentally I ended up in, she recommended, like, stop trying to understand everything. When you're in ceremony, put one hand on your heart, one hand on the earth, say, I don't want to understand, I want to heal. And I went in that ceremony with a different intention, to allow whatever aspect of myself I had suppressed or not given space to rise and give it love and healing. Sure enough, dude, within the first 20 minutes of that ceremony, there's this 4-year-old kid right in front of me, like crying down on the floor, like in fetal position, sitting down. And I was like, wow. I just went up to him and I'm like, sorry you've been crying on your own this whole time. I'm here now, I'll cry with you. We just cried it out for like 10 minutes. So then I was like, I'm coming back, but I gotta go because other people I'm sure need to use the bathroom too. Yeah, man, it was a whole journey, and I talk more about that journey in other podcasts, as well. So it's a wonderful thing to develop that awareness, that compassion for yourself, that being able to distinguish and catch yourself when you're just living automatically. I find that a tool for that, perhaps you can share yours too, like to notice when we're not living consciously or aware of the moment, the here and now, which I think is what spirituality all goes back to. It's living in the here and now.
Yes.
For me, it's been the breath. Like noticing, being aware of your breath, right? And I mean, there's all kinds of health benefits to breathing deeply, right, all the way down to your belly, like belly breathing versus just shallow chest breathing. And I'm initiated in Kriya Yoga, so I would visit the ashram regularly in Homestead, Florida. And one of the monks there, he would say, breath is like a child. When you don't watch him, he's doing whatever he wants. He doesn't behave. But the moment you watch him, he behaves.
It's true.
So the moment you observe your breath, all of a sudden you can be like, oh my God, I'm breathing so shallow. And then you can notice and start breathing deeper.
Observation. Power of observation.
Yes.
Brings you present.
Yeah.
And I love that because I'm huge into breath as well. And when you hug someone, syncing your breath. Mm-hmm. When you eye gazing, syncing your breath. Mm-hmm. Of this. Mm-hmm. And you're aligning and you're dropping it. Mm-hmm. And it's such a beautiful tool to really sink into this physical body, but to again slow yourself down. Because you can't be going at 100 miles an hour and then going, oh, I'm focused on my breath. And it slows you down. It's a mindfulness practice, which is so big.
Yeah.
And there's beautiful ways and techniques to make it more consistent. You can have an elastic, or a little reminders on your phone that, every 3 hours you get a little thing saying to breathe. Mm-hmm. And then, take maybe 3 big breaths. Yeah. And then do that, and that will become constant. That's, again, implementation. So it's easy to talk about, but when you go through it now, how am I implementing all of this knowledge? Yeah, which is huge. Yeah, that's how within this body we can create rituals and routines that consistently apply the knowledge that we learn. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm really stoked. It's beautiful.
Yeah, awesome. So I met you and Tish the same day. When did you meet Tish? You're both from South Africa. You two had the most beautiful friendship or bond. At first I couldn't figure out what it was because I'm like, are they partners? Obviously, like the brain's always trying to figure out, right?
Totally.
And it's just we've got some beautiful people down here, you know, and meeting you and Tish was such a gift. When did you meet Tish? And like,
I met her in my friend's apartment in Osaka, Canada. And I met her. She was friends with also Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, you know, her and I immediately, you know, open souls connected. And we're like, oh my God, like I had a partner at the time, so we weren't connecting in that way, but it was like, oh, I know you, I see you, you know, this is recognition of you're my people, you know what I mean? And she was South African, which I found out kind of briefly afterwards.
Yeah.
And it was just this, it was so open and loving, and we're both super heart open. So it was very easy to just go, oh my God, you're my people.
Yeah.
And we became like this very quick. And yeah, we've just stayed in touch since. And, you know, I love that human so much.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Big shout out to Tish. I love you, Tish. If you haven't heard episode 10, go hear it. She's fantastic. And real quick, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, so you coach people in relationships, right? Like their romantic relationships?
Yes.
And which I'm sure people get.
Branches out.
Okay, of course. I'm sure people wonder sometimes when they talk to you, like, well, you're not even in a relationship. How can you coach people in relationships?
Totally. And I'm so happy you brought this up because we spoke about this. And I don't, in my opinion, need to be in a relationship to coach about relationships. Correct. It's like saying, but you know, you're a tennis coach, but you're not playing tennis right now. Mm-hmm. You did play tennis. So how does that transcend? It's what you've learned within your relationships and how you've applied that knowledge that you can help people. Because everyone learns, but I took it as, oh wow, I love this information. I went through so much in my previous relationship of conscious communication, awareness, space holding, you know, going into depth into some really deep stuff. Yeah. And going, oh, wow, now I'm going to learn, take this in, apply all of this information to my ongoing relationships that will come and go, and then maybe a few that I will close on. And that has allowed me to create a lot of experience and a lot of awareness around giving advice to people. So for me, it's that experience mixed with loving the way in terms of facilitation. Yeah. Has really helped me kind of create that space so couples can come in, or independently I'll take on a man and a woman and basically just give them feedback and conscious awareness on how they're relating.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and I wouldn't have that objection myself because I also coach people in relationships too, like not having to be in one. At the end of the day, it has nothing to do with me as the coach. Like you just look at, okay, what's authentic for you? Yeah. Like being true to that, or you're not being true to that, right? It's got nothing to do with
you. Holding the space, and you creating the container for them to share and open up.
Correct. Great. I wanted to ask you too, we were just at Visionaries Immersion, an amazing event that Tish co-produced with an awesome team. What was your favorite thing about Visionaries Immersion?
Man, it felt like family. You know, even though I knew it like 10 people there, but the rest I didn't. Yeah. And coming in, it was just, my heart was open. It was like, oh my God, these are my people. And like my spirit fam, you know, where it's, oh, we see you, Kyle. We see your strengths and your weaknesses, and we love you. Yeah. That's what I felt. And so my heart was like open, and I felt super authentic and super in my power. And then obviously just hearing all of these people, amazing humans, just chatting about being so much in their purpose and how they're impacting the world around them with their purpose. It wanted me to rise up to kind of my strength and my higher self and my purpose as well. So, dude, honestly, it was the whole event, right? And just sinking in and having part of the Bree tribe there to really just ground us and funnel us in and root us down. Yeah. Like, which is so important, especially when you're doing these immersions. Yes. It's easy to get lost in the ethers. So having that ground also just roots us. Yeah. 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 It was Abuelo Di Matteo from the Bree tribe that was there with his daughter, Rosa. Like, I immediately started crying when we started doing that opening ceremony circle with the men. Yeah. And then there's that part where the women come in between the men to support them. Like, and then I just cry a little bit more at that point, you know. It's so beautiful.
You know what was so cool about that? Two things. First, when I saw you there towards the front, when I arrived, I'm like, "There's my brother Kyle." We hadn't seen each other since that very first time we met in January.
Yeah.
And dude, it's like not a day had gone by, you know?
Man,
It's amazing.
that's when you know that's your fam.
Yeah.
Your fam in your life is when it's like I haven't seen you in a couple months or years.
Yeah.
And it just sinks back in with ease.
Yeah. And the second thing about it is that I really enjoyed was at the first event there in the same property in a zoo, you introduced me to like a lot of your wonderful people. And I actually am just learning that you just met Darren that same day. But you definitely were the gateway for me in meeting a lot of these awesome people and this amazing community. I was so happy at the end of June now to introduce you to a bunch of people.
I know.
At Visionaries Immersion, I'm like, come here, meet my brother Kyle. And like, or Kyle, meet my friend here. And I'm like, I'm reciprocating. How awesome is that?
Dude, it makes me so happy, bro, to see, it's like, I see you as a brother, in some ways like a younger brother, as well as you're coming into your own and going through your beautiful shifts and awakenings that I've seen happen super quickly. And then that was a nice cement of, hey man, these are my people as well. Like, I want to introduce you. Come on. Like, It was this explosion of just this family energy, of wanting us to rise, wanting us to co-create, wanting us to come together. And that's what it felt like, Like, I love you so much, man. Let's connect, get to know each other more, and just sink into family.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, well, we're gonna wrap up in about 1 minute. What have you're visiting here in Santa Teresa?
Mm-hmm.
You've been here before, right?
Many times, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you like Santa Teresa? What are you finding new about it now?
And community. Like when I came, I'd come with like a few boys and we would just surf and chill for a couple of days, and that was it, Never really linked in. And since the last couple of years, there's been such an explosion of community where doing ecstatic dances, cacao ceremonies, this beautiful sound journeys, that's kind of exploded quite a bit. And I feel like the communities in these areas have really kind of grown together.
Yeah.
So for me, just dropping in yesterday was like, oh my God, I've got my people here too.
Yeah.
It's not just like I'm coming with a few boys. It's like, oh my God, this is family.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, part of my community aspect is we can drop into these different communities around the country or around the world and be like, oh, hey, this is Kyle. Let's plug him in.
Yeah.
So whenever someone says, hey, can I come to Nusar? I'm like, come to Nusar. I want to plug you into our community.
Yeah.
So you can feel safe and you can feel held.
Yeah.
That we got you.
Yeah. What's so incredible to me is, so I've been here in Santa Teresa for about 2.5 months now, and I didn't know anybody other than Darren when I came down to Santa Teresa. He's the one that suggested it. And I wanted to, one of my original intentions to come down to Costa Rica was to connect with some spiritual community, conscious community, whatever you want to call it. And here we hold events at our home here at Temple of Lila. And it was so amazing to hear somebody say, after coming to one of our events, like, oh my God, I had been in Santa Teresa for like 3 or 4 weeks. And I wasn't really finding community. I'm so glad I finally found like the conscious community down here. Yeah. And I'm like, is this person saying that about an event and the space that I co-produce, that I hold over here? And I'm like, all of a sudden, it's like I get to be a provider of that. Like, that just blew me away.
It's a recognition. I was like, oh, we are living in the new earth, and we're a part of this beautiful way in which we're here, and we can help co-facilitate and have people come in and be like, we got you.
Yeah.
We're going to nurture you in. Yeah. Feel safe.
Yeah, exactly. All right, brother. This was fucking amazing.
Absolutely.
We're going to have to do some more of these because we barely even spoke about Nasara, which you've been there 6 years just running the show in Nasara. Is there anything else you want to say to wrap up?
Well, I think let's save it for the next podcast. I think we can kind of shift into this again at some point.
Yeah.
But just you are loved, you are cared for, you are provided for, and look for your people, look for your community whenever you can, and sink into that feeling.
Amazing. All right, Kyle. Well, thank you for being a guest of the Love is Our Nature podcast. Thank you for being somebody who embodies love as our nature. And thanks for being a brother of mine.
Absolute pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, brother.
Until next time. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Tune in again. Oh, if people want to get in touch with you, where do they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at kyle.mitri, M-I-T-R-I. And I also have my Facebook, Kyle Mitri. You can reach out at any time. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Tune in with Kyle, and we'll see you again in the next episode. Bye-bye. That is all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for being a valued listener. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the podcast in whatever your favorite platform is. You can also watch the video version of the episode on the Love is Our Nature YouTube channel. Check out loveisournature.com as well. That's where you can see our latest news and most recent content. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a review, share it with your friends, or email me. I love hearing what you took away for yourself out of listening. My email is caesar@loveisournature.com. That's CESAR, or Cesar, like my mother says it, at loveisournature.com altogether. Till next time, I'll be here rooting for you. And remember, whatever the question, love is the answer.